She always painted at night, always with the same old brushes, the ones her mother left her before vanishing. The first time she painted death, it came to her in streaks of red and silver, eyes wide and cold. No one had died yet. But then, 2 days later, a woman was found in the alley behind her building, face down. The same red scarf, the same twisted wrist, the same eyes frozen in terror, just like in the painting. At first, she thought it was coincidence. The second time, she prayed it was madness. But the third broke her, because that one looked like her sister. Lena Moreau didn't believe in fate. She believed in technique, brush control, shading, the color theory of emotion. But lately, the canvas whispered things she didn't want to hear. Shapes emerged she never meant to paint: a necklace, a chipped tooth, a tattoo of a serpent, details so precise, so hideously specific, she began hiding the finished works in the attic. She stopped sleeping. She stopped leaving her apartment. But death kept following her hand. Every new painting felt like a countdown. Every figure she painted was someone she'd never met until the day she passed. One of them on the street, alive, breathing, smiling. A man with gold-rimmed glasses and a slight limp. She ran. Detective Joel Haskins had seen obsession before. But this girl was something else. She showed up at the precinct barefoot, smelling like turpentine and fear. Said she needed to confess something. Said people were going to die. He almost dismissed her until she unrolled the canvas in front of him, and there it was. A perfect depiction of their latest murder, painted 3 nights before it happened. Same victim, same crime scene, same position of the damn cat on the windowsill, and now she had another. She begged him to stop it. She begged him to believe her. He didn't, not yet. The next morning, the man with the gold-rimmed glasses was found dead, poisoned, just like she painted. Now Joel couldn't sleep. Either he assigned her an officer, just to observe, maybe protect her, maybe protect others from her. Her apartment was madness, canvases nailed to walls, some turned backward, all of them haunting. She claimed the paintings came to her in dreams, that she woke up and painted them without knowing why. She even tried not to sleep, tried to stop it. But last night, she painted again. This time, it was someone she knew. Joel himself. He stared at the new painting, jaw clenched. His tie was askew in the image, his coffee spilled, blood crawling down his temple. The window beside him cracked from a bullet hole. Lena sobbed, insisted she didn't want it to happen. "You can stop it," she cried. "I paint what's going to happen, not what has to." Joel wasn't sure what terrified him more. The idea that she was telling the truth, or that someone was using her. And then there was that other detail she never mentioned. Before a signature in the bottom corner of the latest painting, a tiny symbol, a spiral inside a triangle. Joel knew that mark, it wasn't hers. It belonged to a serial killer that was supposed to be dead. A man who vanished 5 years ago after leaving that same symbol carved into his final victim. They called him the Artisan. Joel opened the cold case file. The Artisan was obsessed with symmetry, with rituals. His murders were art pieces staged. Precise, grotesque. Could Lena be a copycat, a witness, a vessel? He decided to test her. He handed her an old photo of a crowd at a train station and asked her if anyone there was in her dreams. She froze, pointed to a boy near the edge of the frame. "He's next." The boy had no name, no file, just a background face, Joel's. Hands trembled. How the hell could she know that? That night, Lena begged the officer watching her not to let her sleep. She drank coffee, sat under bright lights, sketched nervously, but somewhere past 3 a.m., her hand moved on its own. She didn't even notice at first. By dawn, a new canvas stood completed in her living room. A woman, this time, pale, bound, her mouth stitched shut, her eyes wide with silent screams. Joel's phone rang. There was a body in an abandoned theater, exactly as described. Stitched lips, pale skin, a spiral in blood on the floor. But this time, something was different. The killer had left something else behind. A photo of Lena as a child. Joel turned white. Lena had no idea. No memory of who took that photo. No knowledge of that time in her life. Just a faint scar on her back she always thought was from a fall. But Joel recognized the background of the photo. It was from the basement of the artisan's first known hideout, which meant Lena wasn't just painting the victims. She might have been the first. The walls of Lena's apartment had begun to sweat with unease. Joel paced between the canvases, the raw scent of oil and turpentine sticking to his skin like guilt. He stared at the photo of Lena as a child, clutched tightly in his hand. The background didn't lie. It was the artisan's original kill zone, the place where a girl had once escaped, unnamed, covered in blood. Back then, no one could identify her. They assumed she died later, another ghost lost to time. But she hadn't. She survived. She forgot. She became Lena Morrow. Joel didn't know what scared him more, that she had blocked it all out, or that something inside her remembered. The part that painted in the night. The part that knew what death looked like before it arrived. He took her to the station again, this time for protection, but also for answers. She sat shivering in the observation room, arms wrapped tight, whispering to herself like she was trying to hold her mind together with breath and thread. She kept saying, "He sees through me. He sees what I see." Joel leaned in. "Who's he?" She blinked. "The one I don't paint, but he's always there, watching, in every dream." Joel froze. That wasn't how serial killers worked. Not usually. They didn't haunt dreams. They didn't use others to predict their crimes. Unless he pulled out the photos of the victims again. A chill crept over him. The positioning, the symbols, the dates, they weren't random. They were a pattern, a message. Each victim's initials, when rearranged, spelled out a sentence. And the last letter, it wasn't complete yet. He called a cryptanalyst. The message wasn't just taunting them, it was a countdown. Meanwhile, Lena painted again. She didn't want to. She begged Joel to sedate her. But when the officers left her alone for 5 minutes, she found a pencil, a napkin. Her hand moved before she even realized what she was doing. By the time Joel returned, she was unconscious on the floor, and the napkin lay beside her, covered in lines and shadows. It was a man, tall, bald, holding a razor blade, standing behind a girl who looked just like Lena, but younger. Joel's phone buzzed. Another body, a teenage girl, hair chopped, eyes wide, silent scream. Lena awoke screaming, "I know where he's going next." They drove through rain and silence. Lena didn't speak for 10 minutes. She clutched her knees in the back seat like she was trying to make herself smaller. Then finally, "He's trying to wake me up." "What does that mean?" Joel asked, not daring to take his eyes off the road. "He said I was the one that got away, but I left something behind. Something I took from him, and now he wants it back." Joel didn't answer. He was too busy staring at the theater approaching on the left. The same theatre from her last painting. The same one where a woman was found stitched shut. The forensics team had missed something. Joel was sure of it. They went inside. The building moaned like a dying throat. Lena wandered toward the stage. Joel followed with his gun drawn. She stopped suddenly, looked down. Beneath the dust and old ropes was a trapdoor, sealed shut, but something pounded faintly underneath. Joel pried it open. A basement, old, stinking, mold-infested, and inside it not a body, not a killer, but dozens of canvases. Canvases she had painted years ago. Paintings she had no memory of. Joel lit his flashlight. One painting was dated 6 years ago. It showed a man tied to a chair, blood running from his nose, a badge on the ground beside him. It was Joel. "No," he whispered. Lena turned to him, her voice soft, empty. "He used me. He made me paint them. Before I forgot." Joel wanted to ask more, but his phone buzzed. An alert. The latest crime scene. One of the techs had analyzed the spiral symbol deeper, using infrared. It wasn't just a spiral. It was a map, coordinates that led to an abandoned cabin in the woods outside town, one that used to belong to a man named Adrian Keller, an art teacher, fired for inappropriate behavior, never convicted, disappeared 5 years ago, thought to be dead. But his signature was on Lena's latest painting, and that wasn't possible unless Adrian Keller was the artisan. Joel and Lena drove out to the woods. Dusk was bleeding into the sky. The road narrowed. Trees leaned in close like they wanted to listen. Lena began to hum softly, a tune Joel didn't recognize. "My mother used to sing this," she said. Before she left, Joel asked quietly, "Did she really leave?" Lena's hands trembled. She tried to stop him. She tried to burn the paintings. I think he made me forget that too." They reached the cabin, empty, silent, until the basement door opened by itself. Joel went in. Flashlight ready, weapon drawn. The walls were covered in paintings, not by Lena, but of her. Hundreds. Her sleeping, her screaming, her as a child. Bleeding, and in the center, one last canvas. Blank, still. Wet. Joel turned and saw the real artisan, smiling, holding a paintbrush dipped in blood. Joel fired. The shot lit the basement like lightning, but the artisan vanished behind a slamming door, and the brush dropped to the floor with a sickening slap. Joel chased, footsteps pounding on rotted boards, the darkness pressing in close. But the corridors twisted in impossible ways. No windows, no exits, only paint-stained halls lined with shadows. Behind him, Lena screamed. He doubled back. She was gone. A canvas stood where she had been. It was still drying. It showed her lying in a bathtub, eyes open, arms pale beneath water. A ribbon of red curled from her wrist like a snake. Joel's heart raced. She wasn't dead, not yet. He felt it, but the painting had never been wrong. He grabbed it and ran. Outside, the air stung his face like needles. He radioed for backup, yelling coordinates, demands, threats. But static answered him. Dead air, no signal. The trees stood silent. The cabin behind him blinked out, as if it had never been there, and then his phone vibrated. One message, no sender. She has 10 minutes. Paint it again, or she dies. Joel drove back to Lena's apartment like the devil was on his tail. He kicked in the door, grabbed every brush he could find, set up a canvas under the brightest light, but his hands They shook. He wasn't an artist. He was a cop. He didn't know how to save her this way. And yet, he remembered the napkin, the way her hands had moved without thinking. The trance. He closed his eyes, held the brush, thought only of her, and then his hand moved. Paint bled across canvas, like lightning through a storm, blue, white, red. The image began to take shape, not a body in a bathtub, but a girl in a basement tied to a chair. A door ajar behind her. Someone entering. Someone who looked like him. Not Joel, the other him. The one that had died. Joel staggered back. The figure in the painting looked exactly like him, but older, worn, scarred, and on his chest. An ID badge from 5 years ago. Same number, same name. Joel Haskins. He remembered the face now. The corpse they found during the artisan's last known killing. It had been unrecognizable. They assumed it was the killer himself, left to mislead. But the DNA had degraded. There'd never been confirmation, but what if? What if the killer had killed a cop? And what if the cop they thought survived, Joel, had disappeared? Joel stared into the mirror. For the first time, he questioned everything. His transfer to this town, the files that never lined up, the headaches, the gaps in memory. Lena's face when she looked at him, like she knew him before he knew her. He raced to the precinct and tore open his personnel file. Page after page of inconsistencies. No childhood records. No medical history before 5 years ago. Just a sealed note. Redacted. He pried it open. Inside, a single phrase typed on hospital letterhead. Subject's identity restored post-reconstruction. Memory incomplete. His knees buckled. He wasn't Joel Haskins. He was someone else. Someone rebuilt. Someone who had once stood in the basement where Lena had painted blood. Someone who survived the artisan, but not without damage. He remembered now. The screams, the fire, the girl in chains. Her whisper, "Please don't forget me." He didn't, not really. And the artisan he had escaped, just long enough to make sure they both would never remember until now. Joel staggered outside into the rain. Lena was still out there. The new painting, the one he just made, still waited on the easel. The image had shifted again. Now she was not alone. Now she was looking directly at him. Her lips moved. A word formed. Hurry. Joel turned toward the horizon and saw the smoke. He drove toward it, headlights cutting through fog. The coordinates from the paintings formed a pattern on the map now, a spiral of locations. At the center, a name, a place hidden from the official records. An old sanitarium, shut down 30 years ago after a fire. It had been rebuilt in secret, funded by private donors, used for experimental therapy. Lena's birth records listed no hospital, just the name of the senator, whom he broke through the gates. The building loomed like a corpse wrapped in concrete. The lights flickered, the walls peeled like flesh. Inside, echoes, a girl singing, a brush scraping canvas, and the smell. He followed it to a chamber below. Lena was there, chained, alive, bleeding, and across from her, the real artisan. Adrian Keller, older, smiling, holding up Joel's last painting. "I taught you," Keller whispered. "Both of you, you're my masterpiece, my brush and my blade." Joel didn't speak. He raised his weapon, but Keller only smiled wider. "You think you're here to stop me," he said softly, "but you already painted what happens next." Joel's hands began to shake again. Not from fear, from memory, from truth. Because, in the painting Lena made, the one he refused to show anyone, he had been the one with the blade, and she had whispered a name, not Keller's, but his. The blade clattered from Joel's hand as he remembered. Everything. He was not the savior. He was the one who painted the first death, and Lena was not the first victim. She was the only one who lived. Lena's eyes widened as Joel dropped the blade. It skidded across the blood-slick floor and stopped near her feet, just out of reach. Her chains rattled. She didn't scream. She didn't flinch. She only whispered, "You remember now." Joel stumbled backward, breath catching in his throat. Keller stood still, watching him with a mix of pride and malice, like a father admiring a son finally waking up. "You never wanted to remember," he said gently. "But you asked me to make it beautiful. You begged me." "No," Joel said. Hoarsely, "I stopped you." Keller shook his head. "You started it. I only helped you perfect the technique." Joel's hands were shaking again. Visions crashed through his skull. Lena, as a child, bound to the studio floor, blood a brush. In his hand, the rhythm of the artisan's voice behind him. He'd been trained, sculpted, not kidnapped, not tortured, molded, groomed. He had painted the first death under the artisan's command, and when he tried to break free, Keller burned it all. Killed the others, left Joel for dead. And Joel, the broken boy, was reborn by the state, as Joel Haskins, survivor, hero. A new identity carefully sculpted and placed like a pawn in a story. No one finished reading. Joel stared at Lena. She didn't cry, she didn't plead. She looked at him like someone who had waited years for this moment. "You saw me," she whispered. "You let me go. You made him think I burned." Keller laughed quietly. "She was your favorite, you know. You said her eyes told the story better than your brush ever could." Joel fell to his knees. He didn't know what he was. Any more savior or killer, puppet or painter. But Lena was real, and she was here, and her pulse was fading. He stood, and something changed in him. "I'm not yours," he said. Keller tilted his head. "You were never mine. I just signed the bottom of your canvas." Joel moved, fast. The old instincts kicked in. The brush that Keller raised like a dagger shattered as Joel slammed into him. They crashed to the floor. Keller's hands were deceptively strong, wiry, practiced. But Joel had one advantage. He was no longer afraid of who he was. He headbutted the old man, slammed his wrist into the ground, and pried the scalpel free. Keller hissed as blood sprayed from his palm. But he smiled through the pain. "You'll see," he gasped. "Once you kill me, it will all come back." Joel didn't answer. He turned and slashed Lena's chains free. She fell into his arms, barely conscious. "I've got you," he said. Her lips trembled. He said, "If you paint again, he wins." Joel looked at the far wall. A new canvas had appeared, wet, fresh, still forming it. Showed him standing over Keller's corpse. But the background was different. It wasn't the sonata I used. It was Lena's apartment, and blood was on Joel's hands. Joel blinked, looked down. His palms were shaking. The scalpel was still in them. "No," he said. The paint swirled again. Now the image showed Lena dead on the floor, and Joel behind her. "No." He turned and stabbed the painting, ripped it down, tore the frame apart. But underneath it was another dot, and another dot, and another. Every canvas showed the same thing. Lena dying, Joel watching, Keller gone, he's rewritten your instincts, Lena whispered. He's not just painting anymore, he's in you. Joel backed up, heart racing. Keller, coughing and bleeding, laughed in the corner. You want a twist? He wheezed. You're the artist. I'm just the brush. Then Keller pulled something from his coat, a remote, and hit the button. The room went red dot. Above, the roof groaned. Timed charges, explosives rigged in the walls. Joel grabbed Lena and ran. The hallway collapsed behind them. Fire clawed through. The old asylum like it had 5 years ago. They burst out the back, into the woods just as the explosion tore through the building. Debris flew. Canvas ash rained down like snow. Keller was gone, but the painting wasn't. Lena clutched her side, bleeding heavily. Joel laid her gently against a fallen log. I need to get help. No. Her hand gripped his wrist. He left one more. In your car, I saw it. Before he took me. It's not of me. Joel sprinted to the vehicle. Inside, resting on the dashboard like a confession, was a single rolled canvas. He unrolled it and stopped breathing. It showed himself, sitting at the precinct, head in hands, blood on his badge, and on the desk. 7 folders, closed cases, every victim, every murder, all of them unsolved. And behind him, a shadow, holding a brush. Not Keller, not Lena, but something formless. Watching the note at the bottom read, You only remembered what I let you. Joel turned. The forest was silent. Then a twig snapped. Behind him, Lena screamed, and someone answered her. Joel dropped the painting and sprinted back through the trees, breath ragged, heart pounding. The forest was darker now, thick with mist, the sky bruised with pre-dawn grey. He heard Lena scream again, raw, terrified, then silence. 2. Sudden, to complete. He burst through the clearing. She was gone. In her place, tied to the same fallen log where he'd left her, was another canvas, fresh, still wet. He approached slowly, every step heavier than the last. The painting showed her not dead, not bleeding, but kneeling, silent eyes hollow. Behind her stood not Keller, not Joel, but the shadow. For the first time, it had a face. His. Joel staggered backward. The realization crawled through his bones like rot. It wasn't about Keller anymore. It never had been. Keller was a tool, the first brushstroke, but something else had picked up the palette, something that lived in the act of painting itself, something that twisted memory, manipulated identity, used people like Joel and Lena as puppets in a gallery of blood. He was never just a victim, he was a gateway, and Lena was the one thing that resisted. He heard humming again, that same lullaby from the basement, the one Lena's mother used to sing. He followed it deeper into the woods, clutching his gun with one hand, the other trembling violently. Then he saw her, standing perfectly still, at the edge of a cliff. Lena, she didn't look at him. I remember, she said. Joel didn't speak. I remember the day I escaped, the fire. You told me to run. You told me you'd make him think I died. Her voice was far too calm. You weren't like him, not at first, but you were broken, and they didn't fix you. They buried you under someone else's name. Joel stepped forward. We can end this, together. She turned, slowly. Her eyes shimmered with tears, but behind them was something else. Resolve, fear, and recognition. You didn't come to save me, she said quietly. You came because it made you. It's still in you. He opened his mouth, but words failed. Somewhere inside him, something pulsed, a memory not his own, a compulsion crawling up his spine like invisible fingers guiding his limbs. Lena raised her arm, in her hand a lighter. "Don't," he whispered. "This is the only way." Joel stepped closer. "There's another way. I've painted that too," she said, "but it always ends the same." She flicked the lighter for a heartbeat. Nothing moved. Then the wind took it. The flame danced in her hand, flickering against the edges of the canvas beside her. It caught instantly, hungry and wild. The painting curled, burned, disintegrated. As it did, Joel felt something rip inside his chest, like sinew snapping. He dropped to his knees, gasping, and in his mind a scream. Not Lena's, not Keller's. Something older, something ancient and full of hunger. The scream echoed and faded. Then silence. When Joel looked up, Lena was gone again. No sign of struggle, no footprints, only ashes. Back at the precinct, no one believed him. The site of the old asylum had collapsed completely. No trace of explosives. No records of a man named Adrian Keller in any national database. Joel's badge was suspended pending psychiatric evaluation. They called it trauma-induced delusion, hallucinations born from repressed memories. But the forensics team found something strange. In the ash he'd brought back a sliver of canvas, tested, aged. It was over 30 years old. Older than Lena, older than Keller. The fibers were organic, not from this era, not even from this century. Joel stared at it through the glass. On it, burned into the weave, barely visible, a mark, a spiral inside a triangle. He returned to Lena's apartment. Everything had been cleared out. But in the attic, he found one last painting hidden under the floorboards, wrapped in plastic, untouched by fire. It was blank, except for one phrase in tiny red script in the bottom right corner. "When the painter dies, the brush finds another hand." Joel closed his eyes, and somewhere inside him, his fingers twitched. The twitch in his fingers didn't stop. It became a slow curl, like muscle remembering a pattern. Joel stared down at his hand as if it were a stranger's. His palm itched. It wasn't just a physical sensation. It was need, compulsion. Like something was whispering directly into his bones. He stood in Lena's old attic, the single light bulb swinging above him, casting warping shadows on the walls. The blank canvas lay in front of him, unrolled and waiting. The phrase at the bottom bled into the edges like a warning or an invitation. When the painter dies, the brush finds another hand. He backed away, nearly tripped over a box of old art supplies, dried brushes, worn palette knives, cracked jars of pigment, but tucked beneath them something else, a sketchbook. He opened it. Inside were dozens of charcoal drawings, not just of victims, not just of death. Some were landscapes of impossible places, twisted forests, cities under dark skies, faces warped like melted wax. Each page felt wrong, but familiar. Too familiar. Then came the final page. A child, pale, barefoot, smiling. She was handing a brush to a shadow. Joel flipped the sketchbook closed, heart pounding. He wanted to leave, but the canvas behind him groaned. Literally groaned, a sound, like damp wood and something breathing. He turned. It was no longer blank. A smear of red had appeared, not painted, bleeding. He approached it slowly, reached out, and the moment his fingertips touched the surface, the attic went black. He opened his eyes in a hallway, long, endless. lit by flickering lights above. The walls were papered with paintings, hundreds, thousands. All of them showed the same figure, him, in different poses, different years, different deaths. He was being buried, shot, drowned, set on fire, sometimes a child, sometimes old, always him, always dying. A voice behind him spoke. "You're not the first." He turned. Lena stood there, but her eyes were empty, not white, not blind, just void. "I burned the brush," she whispered, her voice echoing through the corridor like distant thunder. "But that doesn't kill it. It only delays it. Someone always picks it up." Joel took a step back. "Is this real?" She shook her head. "It doesn't matter anymore. You're in the gallery now. It's choosing." He looked at his hands. They were covered in charcoal dust, but he hadn't touched anything. Then he heard a slow clap dot from the far end of the hallway. The artisan stepped forward, not Keller, not Adrian, someone else entirely. His face was blurred, features shifting. A brush in one hand, a mirror in the other. "You're a good canvas," the artisan said, "but you were always meant to paint." Joel's voice cracked. "What a—" "You," the figure tilted its head. "I'm what watches. I'm the space between your memories. I'm every what if you've ever painted in your sleep." The walls began to pulse. The paintings bled. Joel's mind felt like it was coming apart. "No," he whispered. "I'm not yours." He turned and ran. The hallway twisted, distorted. Doors opened to other scenes, murders yet to happen. One showed a child in a classroom, paintbrush in hand, staring at a classmate with dead eyes. Another showed Lena, again, older this time, standing over a burning city, painting on the sky itself. Joel slammed through a door and woke up. Back in his apartment, or what looked like it, on the table before him, was a canvas. Fresh, it showed him painting, alone with no face. He gasped and rushed to the mirror. His reflection was gone. Only the room behind him showed. Only the canvas. Then a voice not from outside, but inside his own skull. "The gallery needs a keeper." His hand moved again. Fingers gripped the brush. He screamed, but it came out as silence. And somewhere, far away, a new canvas appeared in an empty apartment. A little girl stood before it. She reached out, touched the paint, and smiled. The little girl dipped her fingers into the wet paint and smeared it across the canvas, laughing softly to herself. She had no idea where the canvas came from. It was just there, waiting for her. No one else was home. Her parents were out. The house was still. But the moment her skin touched the pigment, the light bulbs in the ceiling dimmed. The temperature dropped. The air folded in on itself. She kept painting, somewhere far away. Joel felt it. He sat frozen in the attic of Lena's old apartment, brush clutched in his fist like it had grown from bone. The canvas before him showed only black now, a swirling void where faces used to be. His memories had dissolved. He couldn't remember where he was, or how long he had been there. But he could feel her. The little girl, the next one. The brush had moved on. His hand was still, but not empty. It was only a matter of time. He tried to scream again. Nothing came. Downstairs, unknocked at, he blinked. He hadn't heard anyone enter the building in days, maybe weeks. Another knock, then the door creaked open. He stood, moved slowly, muscles stiff, heart long numb. He descended the stairs like someone walking through a dream. In the living room, the front door stood ajar. No one was there, but something had been left on the floor. A package, wrapped in brown paper. No name, no address, just a smear of dried paint on the side. A spiral in a triangle. He opened it. Inside, a photograph of Lena. She was alive, somewhere in the image, hiding in a crowd. The timestamp was 2 days ago. Joel felt his mind surge. A moment of clarity through the storm. She had escaped. She had survived again, and maybe, just maybe, she had found a way to resist the gallery. He looked at the back of the photo. A message was scrawled in messy charcoal. "If you're still in there, find me before she paints." He dropped the brush. It clattered on the floor. The connection broke. The canvas upstairs flickered. The paint bled upward. The figures dissolved. The gallery trembled. Somewhere 1,000 paintings cracked all at once. Joel gasped and fell to his knees, lungs seizing like he had been drowning for hours and only now broke the surface. He was back for now, and she was real. He didn't waste a second. Packed the photo, his badge, the last burned sketch from the asylum. He didn't know how much time he had before the gallery reached for him again, or found a new painter. But Lena was out there, fighting, running, and someone else. That little girl, she hadn't chosen yet. She still had a chance. Joel swore then he would find Lena before the gallery did, before the next brush was past, before the cycle painted itself again. As he left the apartment, the last canvas upstairs whispered in silence. Fresh paint still drying. A child's signature began to form in the corner, but it paused, smudged, hesitated, as if something, somewhere, had been interrupted, as if someone had said no. And for the first time in decades, the gallery didn't paint its next death. It waited, watching, because somewhere out there, a survivor had turned around, and she was ready to fight back.